What's up, everybody? Travis here, back with my fourth book review, Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin. What's really funny about this book is that I actually had this in my backpack when I was a junior in high school, studying AP US history. And at the time, I was 16 or 17, and I really wasn't of the maturity level to really appreciate the history and appreciate the message that was in this book, Team of Rivals. And so it's around 13 years later, and I picked up the book again and read it, and it's a great book. And the author, historian, Doris Kearns Goodwin, she really goes back and sifts through all of the pieces of history that led Abraham Lincoln to the presidency, to form his cabinet, to see the United States through the Civil War. And the key word here is it's rich in detail. Rich is really the word to me that describes this book. And it starts off with introducing all of the major players. So we have the senator from the state of New York, William Henry Seward. We have the governor from the state of Ohio, Salmon Chase. And then we have member of the U.S. House of Representatives, Edward Bates, and he's from Missouri. So during the 1860 presidential election, Lincoln is running up against all three of these men, Seward, Chase, and Bates, and he strategically positions himself as the second option among the entire voter base. So Lincoln was never considered to be the front runner to be president in 1860, but not only did he position himself to be the second choice of most of the voters, but he also worked with his associates to strategically put the Republican National Convention in the state of Illinois, in the city of Chicago. And so he had that really nice home field advantage. Great part about this book was that Doris Kearns Goodwin, she went through so many diary entries of not only Abraham Lincoln, but also of William Henry Seward and all of his relatives and family members and Bates and Chase and Stanton. And she did so much searching and digging through these articles of history that really put together the book Team of Rivals. And that's why it was so good. I could feel like I was in the backwoods with Abraham Lincoln during his early days in Kentucky and then in Illinois. I could see myself in the mansion of William Henry Seward and walking with him through his garden and as he's appreciating all of the trees and the plant life and the flowers. Or I felt like I was there with Governor Salmon Chase when he's writing to his daughter, "Oh, you have to use better words and you have to tell me more about your ideas and you have to write to me on time." He was very authoritative, especially as a parent to his daughter. And then another really cool part about this book was that you really go through all of the lives of these great men and you learn about the political genius of Abraham Lincoln. The reason why he is our greatest president in United States history is not only because of the greatness of his character and his morals and his values and his ethics, but also because of his politics. He was the president, and he very intelligently recognized that even though he ran up against all of these rivals when he was running to be the president, he recognized that all of these rivals were actually the perfect men for the positions that they held when they were in his cabinet. So in terms of their positions on the cabinet, Edward Bates, he was from the House of Representatives. He became Lincoln's Attorney General. Governor Salmon Chase became the Secretary of the Treasury. And William Henry Seward, who was widely considered the frontrunner to be the president if Lincoln didn't win, he was Lincoln's Secretary of State and closest confidant during Lincoln's presidency. You get to know all of not only Lincoln's details about his personal history, but all of the details of all of these supporting characters. And it really builds a very vibrant world of Washington, D.C. during the Civil War. And the Civil War broke out right as Abraham Lincoln assumed the presidency because he was very anti-slavery and he did not want slavery to extend into the newly acquired territories that were a part of the United States. And so as soon as he got to be the president, the South seceded from the Union, forming the Confederacy. And the Civil War really spanned the entire presidency of Abraham Lincoln. And there were so many details. You got to learn about just the trauma and the tragedy of Lincoln's life. He lost his mother. He lost 2 of his sons. You get to learn more about Mary Lincoln. You get to learn about Abraham Lincoln's love of storytelling and the fact that he loved Shakespeare and he loved literature and history. He loved laughing and he loved telling jokes to really ease the tension and to calm everybody's nerves, especially during the height of the Civil War. You get to learn about Lincoln's love of theater and his love of going to see the plays, which unfortunately led to him being assassinated by John Wilkes Booth in, I think it was Ford's Theater, was where he was shot. And you also get to learn some of the details of like the Gettysburg Address and how Lincoln felt after giving that speech. The speaker before Lincoln for the Gettysburg Address, he went on for like a couple hours, and then Lincoln gets up and performs the Gettysburg Address, which was like a couple minutes, like 2 minutes, and then he finishes the speech, and the crowd is just stunned into silence, and then he turns around and is like, "Oh my God, I think they hated it. They hated my speech." And his advisors have to tell him, "No, Mr. President, like they loved the speech. They were just stunned because you said everything so succinctly and so efficiently, and it was arguably the greatest speech in American history." So everything was very rich in detail. It was such a good book, and it really showed you why Abraham Lincoln was the greatest president in U.S. history. Other people consider George Washington to be up there with Abraham Lincoln to be the greatest president in U.S. history. After reading this book, in my opinion, it's hard to put anybody other than Lincoln there. I mean, he is just the greatest person when reading through his details of his life and the history. So my favorite quote from this book that I wanted to share is this, and it talks about Lincoln's significance. "Why was Lincoln so great that he overshadows all other national heroes? He really was not a great general like Napoleon or Washington. He was not such a skillful statesman as Gladstone or Frederick the Great. But his supremacy expresses itself altogether in his peculiar moral power and in the greatness of his character." And he had a great character. So if I had to give a review score for this book, my review score is a 9.4 out of 10. It was very close to a perfect book. Just the amount of research that went into it. Highly recommend it. Definitely pick it up. And if you want a time machine to bring you back to the mid to late 1800s during the Civil War, and if you want to really feel like you were there with them, with the politicians in Washington, D.C., making these important decisions, determining the fate of the Union as it hangs in the balance, pick up Doris Kearns Goodwin's Team of Rivals. 9.4 out of 10. Highly recommend this book. Pick it up if you haven't read it. And if you're interested in history, especially United States history, this is a great book to read. Thank you everybody for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'm also on Instagram at Travis D'Souza Quotes. I have a quotes page. And then I'm also on Twitter or X at Travis D'Souza. So yeah, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care.